welcome to another episode of Chasing Labels. I don't know why I did it in that frame of voice. That is a little weird. Let me try it again. No, I'm just kidding. I'm Stephen Billings, and as always with me as Andrew Cabral. How you doing, man?
It is indeed me. I'm doing okay.
I'm stumbling through this. Why? I've done this 46 times.
I know, it's a different day, a different time, so it's a little throwing us off a little bit. But this is episode or spine number 47, so we should be pros at this by now. But of course, not really. We're still amateurs, as they say. But Stephen, how are you doing? I think I'll throw that back at you. I never ask you. You always ask me.
I know, right? I'm so nice like that. I don't care about anybody else, but everybody else.
Very courteous. Very courteous.
No, it's I'm doing good. You know, it's getting ready for the baby. We have our baby shower coming up this weekend, and it's all exciting. We're getting the nursery together finally, because it took me like a year to paint the room because I was putting it off for so long. But everything's good, and we had some power issues here, and thankfully we got it figured out, so it didn't mess up anything. We were having like power surges, and like the washing machine was creating light shows in the house, and I was like, I hope the wiring isn't suck. But really what it was an outside ground wire was damaged. So now the power company has to fix it. So that means no money from me.
My next guest was that you had a poltergeist taken
That
over
would
your
have been
house.
cooler. I would have been okay with that.
Okay.
Okay. But no, it's just simple, just something that needed to be replaced after a while, because ground wires only last so long. This has nothing to do with movies.
Nothing
to do with movies.
Really,
you really
nothing.
don't
You
want
are
to know
going
anything
so
about this.
far off.
Yeah.
But we should probably get back on track with a guest that we have this week on our episode, a returning guest.
Yes.
Stephen, who do we have?
Well, he was with us in the early days. I'm surprised he even wants to come back, because early days were rough. We were still figuring this stuff out, but he's such a good guest, and he's such a good guy, and we're glad to have graphic designer Scott Saslow back with us. How you doing, man?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
As you can see, just dandy, getting to watch movies, dealing with baby stuff. Andrew, like, anything interesting happening with you? I know last time I talked to you, you were having like issues with the plumbing downstairs, and you.
I did have some plumbing issues. It ended up being resolved quite quickly. Luckily, no major, digging up of pipes or anything had to happen. So it was a little touch and go there for a little while. You had to be very gingerly when it came to using the restroom around here, which I use quite often. So that was
gross.
That was a bit of an adjustment for me.
We don't need to know all that, Andrew. Gosh.
Oh, okay.
That's a little too personal.
You asked.
But
you asked. You opened up the door.
Okay, fine. But Scott, please tell how's things been going since the last time we saw you? I think it was like last summer.
I believe so. It was episode 13.
Yes.
Personal life, that's been a bit of a roller coaster, but I'll spare you those details.
Yeah, don't be like us. Don't talk about us like we were talking about toilets and stuff. Yeah,
I'm talking about plumbing issues.
As far as work, though, pretty much been working nonstop between Arrow and Kino Lorber and freelancing for some of the big agencies, doing key art comps, which I'll be doing. We're recording this on a Saturday, Monday morning. I start 2 to 3 weeks for one of the big agencies here in LA. On key art, and usually you don't know what you're working on until that morning when they give you a brief, but should be fun, and I've certainly gotten better over the last couple of years. And I also did a couple jobs. They haven't been announced yet. One of them has been hinted at, but I did 2 jobs recently for Turbine Media in Germany.
Yeah.
And they have a couple more for me on deck, and there are so many other labels I'd love to work for, but then, it's like every time I have time to send out another round of emails with my info, then I get another job, and so I wouldn't have time to do the job anyway, even if I got it. So it's sort of, they don't teach time management and all that, but so far it's all worked out. And I'm just enjoying this weekend now, because starting Monday, it's going to get busy again.
Yeah. And that's great, man. It seems like you've been able to just keep busy and really make doing this your full-time thing, your full-time gig,
Yeah. And I also I did a couple jobs for La La Land Records. They release vintage film scores, and one of their producers was kind enough to put my name on the list, so I got to see the premiere of the Star Trek: The Motion Picture Director's
Yes, I remember
Edition.
seeing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was literally just going to ask you about that. How was that?
Well, I've been at Paramount before. My side job when I was just starting with this was doing background work, on TV. So I've been at Paramount. It was cool to be there as a guest, but it was pretty cool. Saw a lot of familiar faces. No actors. And so many of those filmmakers have since passed away. I was looking at photos when they did the director's edition screening for the DVD in 2001, and there's Robert Wise, there's Jerry Goldsmith, and so many people who are no longer with us, sadly. But I brought my roommate with me, and she kind of, tongue-in-cheek, I thought it was kind of funny. She looked at me and she said, all these people just look like you, and older versions of you, and you're all dressed the same. Because just all a bunch of geeks. I got to briefly meet Mike Okuda, longtime Trek graphic designer and one of my heroes. And it was cool just to see the movie in a theater.
Yeah.
And it was a blast.
I wanted to ask you, how did the movie look? Because I know they did some extensive work on it. Because the last time you were on, I think they had just announced their Paramount had just announced what their 4K edition box set of the first four, original crew member movies, and we were wondering, are they going to re-release the director's cuts of these, or at least the first film? And a year later, they did.
Yeah. And it's funny, I remember when the DVD came out, I was in college and didn't have my car, so took the bus to Best Buy to buy the DVD, and then back. So that was a 90-minute trip, I'm sure. But no, it basically builds on the work. It's the same team, mostly, and it builds on the work that they did for the DVD, which was only done in standard definition. But there's some stuff they were able to fix. There are a couple of things that hopefully, and you could read about this on some of the forums, there are a couple of little minor issues that hopefully get addressed before the physical 4K release comes out. But I'm like 98% happy with it. But what I had to get used to was the dialogue, because the audio's been remixed. They found all of the ADR and everything. I mean, there are lines in the movie that have never been heard before, like in the background or on the ships on the comms. Like there's a couple of Shatner lines and a couple of Walter Koenig that have literally never been heard. There are a couple of shots that surprised me, like, oh wow, I didn't know they were going to do that. A couple of mistakes that have been addressed. The music, and it's my favorite film score of all time, sounds is better than it ever has. Couple other issues that I wish little continuity things that I wish were addressed but weren't, but minor stuff. But I was happy with it. Hopefully the 4K. I don't know what they're gonna. I mean, it hasn't been announced yet. I don't know what they're planning as far as extras, but it deserves nothing less than, like the Blade Runner treatment. Give us that long 3-hour documentary. I know they won't, but maybe I'm wrong. So,
not to get too far off track, it seems that Paramount has really been diving into the Star Trek property even more so these days than they ever have been, in most recent times. Obviously, we got, the Kelvin timeline films, J.J. Abrams, all that stuff. But they've done a lot when it comes to their original programming on Paramount Plus and stuff like that. And they seem to be really trying to mine that property even more for today's audience, which I guess is good because, it just brings more focus on, the franchise for new generations and all that kind of stuff. But because I know for years and years, I held off buying the Blu-rays of any of the motion picture films other than Star Trek II Wrath of Khan, because they finally re-released it in a remastered version on Blu-ray. And of course now, they've since upgraded, but I always heard that there were so many problems with those original Blu-ray releases that I just didn't want to have a headache over. I was just waiting for something good to happen. So I guess it's slowly happening now.
Yeah, I'm still not sure why they decided to release 1 through 4 as opposed to 1 through 6, but hopefully we'll
Made no sense to me.
They'll announce another set with the next 4 soon.
Which would be odd.
Yeah.
But, because, you know it better than I do that, the original crew's only 1 through 6, and then Next Generation crew takes over. So it would be weird having a box set with like original crew and then rest original crew plus like the first two Next Gen films. It would just be odd.
Well, maybe they'll do 5, 6, and Generations, which I guess is a crossover, and then they'll do
Right.
8, 9, and 10.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I have those Blu-rays, and they look. I mean, I don't have the highest tech setup, but I mean, you could tell, especially like 3 and 4 and 6 with the noise reduction, and 5. I don't know why they boosted up the contrast. So there's a lot of like strobing effects and things at the end, and yeah, it's. Hopefully the 4Ks will look so much better, and then 6. The Blu-ray only has the theatrical cut, but on home video for the longest time, they put together an extended cut. So I assume they'll include both on whatever, the next release is. The theatrical cut and the extended cut that they did for home video.
Yeah, we keep talking about this over and over again, how, if a film has multiple cuts, just put them all out and let people watch whatever cut they want. The Blade Runner treatment, like you just said. It's the same thing. Like, give us the 5 cuts of this movie or whatever exists. But kicking it back to Steven, do you have anything else to add? Because we're just going off on Star Trek.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is the Star Trek podcast.
I'm such a novice
week.
Star Trek fan. Yeah, I know. I'm such a novice Star Trek fan that I still have so much to watch. So that's why I always like to talk with Star Trek fans to get information that I need to actually dive into this.
I've never been a super Star Trek fan. I do enjoy some of the films, and I've never owned any of the original films, so this would be my chance. If I ever wanted to dip in when the new 4Ks come out, then it's probably when I'll do it. And I'm hearing I like the good reviews off of the screening you had, Scott. So, but as we've talked about also on the show, Paramount seems to have woken up. So they've been going into their catalog a lot more, and maybe that's a sign that they're going to put more effort towards even some of their more popular titles. Maybe, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, we don't really cover Paramount too much on here, but of course we're aware of.
Yeah, we're aware of it. Yeah.
Although I bring them up quite often. Don't ask me why.
Well, I mean, they get brought up because sometimes some of their stuff goes to other companies that we cover.
Yes,
and
very
so
true.
It's telling to know what they're willing to give up and what they're not willing to give up. Like they're putting out, a new Blu-ray of Basketball, I think.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's Mill Creek.
Or is that no? You're right.
Oh,
You're right. That
okay.
is Mill Creek. Yes.
Yeah. But they are digging deep into
tons
their,
of Paramount
into
stuff
their,
coming out. Yeah.
They are doing Top
they're
Secret though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're digging deep into their catalog titles of stuff, and it's just like they're choosing now to do this. It's like I feel like the Blu-ray catalog, dive into was prime for them like 5 or 6 years ago. That would have been a good time, but better late than
I was
never.
going to say that being that Blu-ray is at the top of his game, like Blu-ray's what it is, and now we got 4K. Maybe this was a great time, because Blu-ray is optimal right now. It's not going to,
Right.
it's not like you always talk about. If they'd have made Blu-rays back in 2010, they would probably need an upgrade by now. So maybe this is the best time.
We were just talking about those Star Trek. A lot of those are from the late 2000s.
Yeah.
Like I remember seeing the Blu-ray box sets come out for those movies. They had like 6 movie box sets. They had like, original films and the next gen films in separate box sets, and they would combine them both into one giant box set. It was always the same discs that they put out in the late 2000s. They were just repackaging them over and over again.
Yeah.
But you're right. But getting back on track, Steven, when do you want to transition to what we got coming up today?
Well, one last thing I wanted to ask Scott before we move into our Blu-ray slates. I bring up like what you've been doing since the last time we talked to you. Could you say one thing I wanted to ask you? Because we're always evolving as art. I know me and Andrew, like we dabble a little bit in our own filmmaking and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So as artists, you're always like evolving. Is there anything you feel like you've gotten better at or learned to get better at since the last time we talked to you when it comes to your graphic designing and all that kind of stuff?
Well, certainly the like my agency work, and I know like when I interned, I had an internship at the end of 2016 at one of the big agencies called BLT. Mm-hmm. And I think at the time I'd never built just like an actual I had done my daily exercise, my quick down and dirty posters, but I'd never built like a professional quality movie poster. And at the time, I think it took me 3 days, and now I could knock out about a dozen in one day.
Oh yeah.
I think in January I was working on comps for this upcoming George Clooney, Julia Roberts movie, and just as far as the workflow and shortcuts and best practices, basically, I mean, I've definitely improved, and Photoshop has gotten so much better too. If their background removal feature is such a lifesaver.
Yeah.
So if the actor's on a plain background, I don't have to take the pen tool and then isolate them and then paint in the hair and all that. It's gotten much better.
Yeah, I mean, technology, man, it just makes things. I wish some of this stuff sounds so easy, and I wish I had the patience to learn some of it, especially like Photoshop. Like I've always wanted to get good at that, but it got to a point where I was I mostly primarily have worked in just using Adobe Premiere, and once I kind of learned the basics of that, I don't have time for anything else. I'm like running around all the time, and then I just got rid of Photoshop as part of my plan with them. So I'm just back to basics. But I'd like to learn Photoshop one day, because it's a nice tool to have, even for us, wanting to create things just for advertisement.
Yeah, even
purposes.
even like simple artwork and simple things for the show here. It's nice to know at least the rudimentary works of graphic design. I leave Steven to do all that stuff, because I do not know how to do any of that. It's never anything that they actually taught you in school. You almost have to seek it out yourself. Also, and that technology is really relatively new, I think, when it comes to people being able to use it at home. Like, I remember people talking about Photoshop in the 2000s, maybe. I think it was around the time, but Photoshop became, people kept talking about it in everyday conversations.
Yeah, it's
well, I guess once the word Photoshop became a verb.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say.
That's Photoshop,
yeah.
or or let me Photoshop this or something.
Yeah. It's an amazing world we live in. We can do so. We're doing.
It is indeed.
We're having these conversations all the time.
It's technologically more dependent now than ever before in everyday life.
Yeah.
Just to exist. But not to get too existential, let's transition to some movies. We have a gigantic just slate of movies for this week.
Scott.
Just everybody throwing everything out there.
It's got so much to talk about. We're gonna blow your mind. But
I know. We will not not linger too long on each one. We will just want to give everyone a kind of a gander at what's upcoming from a bunch of these companies that we're going to be talking about. But the first up, Stephen, is one that dropped a little bit late last week, not in time for us to delve into the episode too much, other than just mentioning it briefly, and that is Umbrella Entertainment. We talked a bit about Imprint, and we have their Australian counterpart in Umbrella, and we've got quite a few films here. A couple of online exclusives that they've started up here when it comes to special editions, we talked about Miami Connection a lot. They have a new special edition of that, and they also have the limited edition of Abominable Dr. Phibes and Dr. Phibes Rises Again double feature. I think is limited to their website at super low amount.
They're doing kind of like a Shout Factory thing where they do a lot of site exclusives.
Yes, and I mean, for some reason, I was just talking to Stephen before the show, is a lot of Vincent Price action over the last year or so. And whether it's re-releases or new releases of his stuff, and I'm just loving all of it. But that is one of the releases here, is the Abominable Dr. Phibes and Dr. Phibes Rises Again. We also have another double feature here where it's part of their retro horror double feature kind of things they got going on here. They have one here. This is their number 2 volume, and this is Circus of Fear and The Bloody Judge, which is a Christopher Lee double feature. So you got some Vincent Price, some Christopher Lee action coming at you. Very cool. And then we've got another retro horror. This is a triple feature. These are the Yeah, I put sequels in quotes. The sequels to the Universal monster film, The Invisible Man. This is The Invisible Man Returns, The Invisible Woman, The Invisible Agent, and I think there's actually a fourth film that's not included in here. I can't remember the title of it, but that's very interesting because they're slowly re-releasing a lot of the Universal monster stuff, and you can actually buy both of those bundles together in a like a like a quadruple feature set where it's just both of these Blu-rays together, which is kind of cool. But moving on from there, we got something completely on the other side of the spectrum. We have an Elvis Presley film, Tickle Me, and we have a Jerry Lewis film, The Ladies' Man, which apparently says including the man behind the clown. Interesting. I don't know. Yeah. I probably should have looked up whether that's a special feature or...
Yeah, you don't want to do it now.
Yes. Yeah, don't do it now. Don't do it now. Don't break...
Don't have dead
do
air here, Andrew.
Yeah, it is. The Jerry Lewis, the Man Behind the Clown feature documentary. Okay. There's a new audio commentary, and there's a new trailer collection of Jerry Lewis films. This is actually a Blu-ray premiere. I think this is the first ever been released on Blu-ray as of this release.
Okay.
So for Jerry Lewis fans out there, this is obviously for you.
Yeah. So yeah, Scott, anything interest you here?
The Jerry Lewis movie, actually.
Okay.
The Ladies' Man. I remember.
Nice.
Well, Jerry Lewis, I'm a fan, but I'm far from an expert. But he had this insane contract with Paramount. It was like to make one movie a year for 10 years or something like that, and the pay was great. And one of those movies from this deal was The Ladies' Man. He basically lives in this house full of women, and he directed it. And if you see photos of the set was built, it's like a dollhouse. It's this big cross section, and they could just film any room from any angle, anywhere. And Paramount, I remember buying it. I think I just quit a production assistant job and was pretty depressed. So I went to Best Buy and bought the box set when Paramount put out the set of all the 10 movies. And there's one hilarious scene in this movie where a guy comes over to excuse me, a guy comes over who's dating one of the women who lives in this big house, and Jerry meets him. Jerry almost sits on the guy's hat. He puts the hat down on the table. Jerry almost sits on it, and all the guy wants Jerry to do is put the hat back on his head, on the guy's head. It goes on for 2 minutes. He manages to destroy the hat, basically. And Lewis's back is to the camera, but you could tell he's trying his best not to laugh. It's very funny, and it's just one. I don't even remember much in the rest of the movie. Just this one scene. If you look it up on YouTube, Jerry Lewis Ladies' Man hat, and it's pretty funny. It's a very slow burn kind of thing.
Yeah, it's funny how comedy used to be like that, where it's like they would focus in on something very small and almost unnoticeable to most people. Like it's just a joke about putting your hat, but they spend 5 minutes on it. It's like nowadays you don't see anybody waste time on that stuff. They
No, it's a unique brand of comedy where you just take this small idea and just keep pushing it and building upon it as far as you can go, as far as you can take it, even to zany levels. To wacky, absurd levels, because that's where the comedy comes from. It's so interesting watching a lot of these old Jerry Lewis films because I had not watched a lot of them before, and I think Umbrella and Imprint both put out Jerry Lewis films now.
Yeah.
So we've covered them here on the show, and just his brand of comedy was very unique, and I think it really captured people at the time. I mean, a lot of modern audiences may not like it. It's very goofy, very zany, very crazy, very over the top. He's kind of a cartoon character come to life for the most part. But it's a fun watch. Like Scott said, it's just funny kind of nonsensical, humor and plot. There's not much going on to the plot. Basically, what happens in the movie, since I watched it, is that Jerry Lewis graduates from college. He's the valedictorian. He's got his whole life ahead of him. He thinks he's gonna marry his college sweetheart or whatever, and it turns out she cheats on him or something. And so now he's swearing off women. He can't stand them. He just doesn't want to be around them, doesn't want to talk about them, just drives him crazy. Like he has a whole panic attack about it. Then he gets a job at a boarding house filled with women. Just filled with women. This gigantic dollhouse like Scott described. And he doesn't even know about it until he already gets the job. I don't even know what his job is. He's kind of just like
a
someone
counselor,
who works there.
you know, like
Not even a counselor. Like I guess like I don't even know if it's like a handyman or just someone there to do
a
like
chaperone.
do like physical work, like clean up and like
So he's a
stuff
he's a
like
janitor.
that. Yeah, I guess so, something like that. But
Sort of
either way,
Jack of all trades, master
Jack
of
of all
none.
trades, yeah. And he just like, he starts, and it's not, none of it's malicious. That's what I kind of love about it, is that like, he's just a goofy guy, nice guy, just a little kind of weird. But he becomes very endearing to them and they to him. It's very nice film. But yeah, the comedy is so over the top, but so much fun. But some of these other films, I could tell you, Circus of Fear and The Bloody Judge is an interesting double feature, both starring, like I said, Christopher Lee, whom I was just telling Steven before the show. There's a lot of Christopher Lee stuff coming out these days that I'm all for. We just got the Wicker Man set that just came out from
I just watched the theatrical cut that they put out.
Yeah, there's like, what is it, like three cuts?
There's three cuts. There's theatrical cut, director's cut, and final cut. I watched the theatrical cut, and it looks good. Yeah, I mean, it looks great. And
yeah, we've got that Christopher Lee stuff. We've got a Christopher Lee box set number 2 coming out from Severin, and we've got this double feature here. And there was other Christopher Lee stuff we talked about with
well, there's
what was the Severin film?
Well, the other one, the Captain Invincible.
Yeah, Captain Invincible.
Yeah,
where Christopher Lee's the bad guy, and he's like, it's also like part musical. What a film! What a film!
I can't wait to watch that.
But yeah, the Circus of Fear is he plays a lion tamer who's wearing a mask the whole time, so you don't really see Christopher Lee until towards the very end of the film. And the film starts off as a heist film, but then turns into a murder mystery.
Ooh.
Essentially, the film starts off with this great bank heist. No spoilers here. Big bank heist. What happens is this money is seemingly lost, and people are trying to find this money. It may have been lost at a circus. That's where the whole circus thing comes in. But also at the circus, apparently someone is doing some murdering of some people. So now the police get involved and have to figure that out. But they're also trying to figure out the bank heist issue. So they two worlds kind of collide here. And Christopher Lee is in the film, like I said, as this lion tamer guy. And it's an interesting film.
It sounds like something he would do. And he would take it completely seriously. Like he was
110%.
He wants to he wants to do every type of character he can, but he wants to take it like thespian level acting. Like he probably worked with the lion tamer. He probably Yeah.
His name is Gregor. Gregor the lion tamer. There's a whole like family plot that's going on in the film as well. I really liked it.
Okay.
I really liked it. I thought it was pretty good. The Bloody Judge, though, completely different type of film. The Bloody Judge is, he's playing an actual real life, based on a true story, where there was this guy in the late 17th century England called the Bloody Judge, where he would just he would convict people based off of, what we consider today kind of dumb stuff. Not dumb, but like people who get accused of witchcraft.
Yeah.
If they were, women would be accused of witchcraft if they were old and not, if they were 30 and not married. If they were spinster women, they would be accused of witchcraft and they would be burned at the stake. Stuff like that, which happened and is horrific, but by modern, context is so absurdly misogynistically ridiculous. But of course, he plays this bloody judge who's just ruthless and just convicting people. And there's a lot of torture going on in this movie. A lot of medieval torture, so some blood effects that are really good, some practical effects that are really good. The movie itself is not particularly great, by my opinion.
Are these Hammer movies?
It sounds like a Hammer film.
They sound like Hammer films.
It sounds like, but it's let me put this, The Bloody Judge is directed by Jess Franco.
Ah.
So there you go, Steven.
Okay.
There's the exploitation. There's the sexual aspect of this. Like, women are being tortured naked for no reason whatsoever, other than just the exploitative factor of it.
Well, I mean, I can see this. If this is Jess Franco and it's Christopher Lee, I gotta assume Severin's gonna try to put this out also, if they can.
I was actually surprised this wasn't in one of the box sets already.
Yeah.
Of the Christopher Lee sets. I know they're putting out a lot of Jess Franco stuff.
Yeah.
So I was surprised that this is not. This could actually show up.
It still
in the Severin
could. It still
release
could.
soon.
Yeah.
I mean, it could very well. But so that's for those of you who know Jess Franco's films, and specifically if you're a fan of Severin, you understand what type of film this is in terms of the exploitative factor. It doesn't go as far as probably some of his other films later on. This was more of a mainstream work from him, I think. Obviously, working with Christopher Lee, who I believe he worked with several times. I was reading.
Okay.
So I got to look into that a little bit more because I'm just fascinated by that team up.
Yeah.
But the film itself is not particularly great when it comes to like the overall plot of the movie.
Yeah. And so one of the last ones I want to talk about in this slate is Miami Connection, which we've talked about a lot. I feel like lately because it's been getting re-released in so many different labels. I think Vinegar Syndrome, was that one of the ones that is putting it out?
Yeah, that's the big 4K like release that they've got upcoming.
Yeah, and
but this exclusive set comes with because they've already released it separately itself.
Yeah,
and we've talked about. I think that's where you watched it for the first time.
I think so. Yeah,
Steven.
Yeah.
Was Miami Connection. This particular collector's edition is actually sold out already. Comes with the CD soundtrack, comes with the poster, comes with the T-shirt. I know a bunch of people probably delve into that. I don't know how limited it was, but
I think it was like five. I think if I read correctly, it was like 500, maybe 500 units.
Yeah.
But I know Scott was telling me he wanted to talk about this. So Scott, please tell us about your affinity for Miami Connection.
Well, I remember, I mean, I guess you guys talked about the backstory, like how someone, I think from Alamo Drafthouse, like bought a print of it on eBay and, that whole thing. So, they put out a trailer. And my friends and I are watching it and it's like, okay, we need to watch this movie. And then we watched it, but we honestly, and in retrospect, I don't know why, but for the first 20 minutes of the movie, we were convinced that it was a genius parody that was produced now to look purposely like a bad low-budget 80s movie. And they filmed it in Florida, and we're all from Florida. We were living in Florida when we watched it, and they're in Orlando, so we're looking for like telltale signs that it was modern. We're looking for, buildings in the Orlando skyline that wouldn't have existed in the 80s and all this other stuff. And then we realized, no, it was made in the 80s, because if they were able to do it that well and hide it, like, then, clearly the movie would have cost much more to do, painting out all the modern cars and buildings and so on. So it's like, okay, it's 80s. And no, we just enjoyed the hell out of it. The same scenes that people online love to laugh at and make fun of, or, like when the one guy's reading the letter and it's all serious. And, yeah, things like that.
Oh, that monologue. We talked to Stephen. What you'll have to refresh my memory. What episode did we talk about the Miami Connection release from Vinegar Syndrome? Was it the Dave Eves episode?
It might have been Dave Eves, or it's right around that area. It's maybe about 4 or 5 episodes back or so. But
yeah, it was one of those episodes. Sorry if we can't remember. These all end up running together for me sometimes. But I watched it for the first time. It was just absolutely blown away by the sheer insanity of that movie. Just the sheer there's so much in that movie that's just so unexplainably unique.
I think, and the thing is a movie like this, I think we can all agree is not great, but there's an endearing quality to it, because it's like you can tell somebody really tried to make something good, and they enjoyed making it. I think there's an enjoyability factor and that's why it comes across, and that's why us as viewers can still enjoy it, because you can tell people had fun making it. And yeah, I mean, it's like I said, endearing. It's an endearing movie, And like you brought up the scene where he reads the letter, or even this when he gets the letter at the end of the movie, he goes to the mailbox, he's like, my dad, like he starts crying, and they pick him up, and that's like my favorite part is when they all pick him up like he's in a damn baseball team, like he hit the home run at the end of the game, and I'm like, Jesus Christ.
And I can't remember how it goes off the top of my head, but it streamed on Netflix for like a brief period.
Yeah.
And all I would have to do to convince someone to watch it is just read the one-line synopsis, and it was just like once you got to stop the motorcycle ninjas from just the more you read it, the more ridiculous it sounded. And it's like, we have to, why aren't we watching this right now? Come on.
There's I think we talked about this last episode too, like with Maddie and Dave, like these places like Tubi and like Vudu, and you can find so many movies like this that have some of the most weird descriptions. Like I told him I watched Snake Out of Compton, and it's like basically like a sequel to Snakes on a Plane, but like a snake from the Snakes on the Plane falls to into some neighborhood, and he's like got like this venom that like can turn a person into a snake. It's hilarious. But it's movies like that you could have a lot of fun with, even if they're not great art or anything like that. Like it doesn't matter, if you like it, you like it. And I enjoyed it. Me and my wife like doing that. We'll go on Tubi or Vudu and just go and find something that looks ridiculous and have a good night with it. So, but yeah, Miami Connection. There's apparently a lot of. I think was it an MVD might have put out a version too. I think MVD did also.
Of Miami Connection.
Yeah, MVD, and then Vinegar Syndrome, and then now Umbrella has an edition. So there's like 3 different editions out there that's recent, I believe, for Miami.
Yeah, there is Oh no, there's an Image Entertainment release of Miami Connection here in the U.S. that from 2012, which I believe is obviously out of print now, because Vinegar Syndrome is putting out a 4K edition of it. Which is still coming out May 27th, which is less than a month from now. It's going to be May.
Ready for it, guys.
It's already May, Steven. I can't
Get ready
deal with
for
this
it,
nonsense. Guys. I know. So that's
That's Umbrella.
That is Umbrella right now. So
let's move on. Let's move on to 88 films. 88 films.
Okay, this is a little more chaotic. We'll be honest with you. 88 films. There was a lot of releases that came out. Some were leaks. Some were stuff that is coming out immediately. So we're just kind of gonna go over the stuff that we believe is coming out in July.
Yeah. There was some stuff that came out that is not even coming out till like September, and we're gonna leave that for more official announcements. Just so we're not getting too far ahead of ourselves. And of course, we only got so much time. Well, we put a time limit on ourselves on the show. We try not to go too long. So, we're going to cover what is supposed to come out in July, and I think they're all July 25th release dates. So we got. I'll just run down the list here. We got the Tiger Cage 1 through 3
trilogy.
Yeah, the trilogy 1 through 3, all in a nice set. We have Killer's Moon. We have Hitcher in the Dark. And help me with this title, Beware My Brethren. Okay, yeah,
yes.
I got that right this
Nailed
time.
it.
I got it. And then the last one being Knife of Ice, which is an Umberto Lenzi film. So a lot of Umberto Lenzi coming out all the time, too. So, Scott, anything here interest you? Anything you've seen?
Nothing I'm actually quite familiar with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like 88 films has got such a vast array of stuff. If I hadn't watched one of these movies in prepare, I would have not had anything to talk about myself.
What did you watch?
Well, I watched Hitcher in the Dark.
I think I watched that as well.
Yeah, Hitcher in the Dark is kind of like a, I would say it's obviously like there's The Hitcher, which is the Australian film that's pretty famous with Rutger Hauer, and it's kind of like, I think, trying to play off of that somewhat, but more where he's targeting women, and he has kind of like, which this is a thing that happens a lot in these films, I think, that came out in this time when it came to like road killer films, is that they have some kind of like sexual repression problem, and then they take it out on women. Kind of makes me think of Road Games too. Road Games.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of that goes back to Psycho.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, Norman Bates. One of the things in there triggering him is his attraction to Marion Crane, Jennifer. I can't remember her name, but Janet Leigh's character, and that's what triggers that kind of psychosis within him and whatnot. This is also an Umberto Lenzi film as
Oh,
well.
is it? I didn't even realize.
This came out in 1989, one of his later works, obviously, The Knife of Ice. And yeah, it's exactly what Steven said. Uh, this young, deranged young man drives around in it's a
Yeah, it's
camper,
a camper. Yeah,
like an old camper, and he's kind of picking up hitchhikers, women, of course, and it made it seem as if he was doing like a serial murderer or a serial killer, but it's more focused on him, particularly focused on this one woman that he picks up early on in the movie, and then him kind of holding her as a captive throughout the film, and it's similar to a lot of the other '80s, you know, exploitation films, if you will, slasher films to a certain extent, where it's just men preying on women, and it just that seemed to be a whole horror subgenre that really, for lack of a better term, thrived in the '80s because they made so many of them.
yeah.
It's by today's standards, it's horrifically misogynistic, and all of those things are warranted. But and the film is, I don't think it's a bad movie though, Steven.
No, no.
It's not great. I mean, there's a boyfriend in this movie. I don't know where they found this actor, but he stuck out so bad. He's so bad. But the actor who plays the main, the person who's
hitcher?
driving around, I thought he conveyed his psychosis very well.
Yeah, yeah,
Very well.
yeah, yeah. I enjoyed it. And so yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, I don't. I just doing a little research on the Tiger Cage. It is directed by Wu Ping Yin, who
Yes.
has done a lot of good stuff, specifically Drunken Master. If you've seen
Yes, he has.
if you've seen Jackie Chan's Drunken Master, it's
I'm actually glad you brought up Tiger Cage, because I would definitely recommend. I was able to watch 2 out of 3 of these films. I wasn't able to watch the third film, but this is really cool. This is what I really like about what's going on now with 88 Films and now with Arrow and others, is putting out a lot of these we've been getting Golden Harvest films, we've been getting Shaw Brothers films, and then now with these films we're getting that kind of 80s Hong Kong action films. I just think of John Woo automatically, and it's in that same vein as The Killer or Hard Boiled. These kind of films based off that have to deal with like police and like crime and stuff like that, and just awesome action with bullets and all this kind of cool stuff. I really dug both of these films.
okay. Yeah, and the other thing, notably, I guess he did do the sequel to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. It looks like he did the sequel.
Oh, the one that came out to Netflix.
Yeah, 2016, the Sword of
Yeah,
Destiny.
that was a Netflix original.
Yeah,
Sort of.
yeah,
Destiny, I
he's still with us. He's still making
Oh
stuff.
yeah, he's still working. And you know who's in both this film and its sequel is Donnie Yen.
Yeah.
Early roles from Donnie Yen. He has a much smaller role in the first film and a much bigger role in the second film. But what is interesting, I will say this: while it is a trilogy, these films are not connected with one another in terms of characters or plots. They just happen to be, kind of similar. They're more spiritual sequels to one another than direct sequels.
Yeah.
Because even though you have some of the same actors from the first film in the second film, like Donnie Yen, he's in both films, he's not playing the same character at all.
Gotcha.
So I just wanted to make sure people knew about that. But these films are fun and really good, and I really want to see these in better quality. I think they've been available on DVD for years, but I really want to see what these Blu-rays look like. So this would be one that's kind of definitely on my radar when it comes to 88 Films. And I think I didn't get to check, Steven, but I'm pretty sure these are all Region B. I don't think
It's
these
pretty
are
good
US.
chance. Pretty good chance.
Yeah, I don't think these are U.S. releases. But yeah, I definitely recommend Tiger Cage to people, and I had a fun time watching those films. trying to remember what else on the slate that I got to see. Killer's Moon that was part of the slate you mentioned, right? Yeah, not really a big fan of the movie.
Okay.
I'm just gonna say I'm not a big fan of it. Yet again, it is similar to what we were just mentioning with
Hitcher in the Dark,
the Umberto Lenzi film.
Okay.
But this one, basically 4 mental patients like escape an asylum and end up at like terrorizing like schoolgirls.
Okay.
And their like teacher in like the woods somewhere, and like some abandoned
Sounds like
house
it's
or
got
hotel that they find. It's so exploitative. It's like 70s sleaze, you know what I mean?
Kind of making
like raunchy.
Kind of makes me think of
it's-
what is it? Wes Craven's Last House on the Left, or isn't that the one? One of his early movies that
that's like his first.
Yeah,
film.
like where the guy where they just find the girl and they start torturing her and raping her, and that's the movie.
There are a lot of scenes in this film like that,
Yeah.
which are obviously disturbing for many, many reasons. And the film is just not. I just didn't really like it at all.
Okay.
But yeah,
that's how it is.
The others I weren't able to see. There are some other ones that did end up leaking, that that we're.
I can list them off real quick, but we're not going to talk about them.
Yeah. Like there's like what righting wrongs is one.
On the run.
On the run.
Violence in a woman's prison. All the souls except the dead, and the 7% solution are ones that were apparently going to come out in September. So, but we don't want to get into them until there's more. We're closer to
until they've actually like probably officially not. And none of these, they were released to the point where we don't even have like extra special features, no details about restorations or remasterings or anything like that. These are just basically thrown out there, and here you go, they're coming.
All right.
More later.
All right. Well, let's move on over to Warner Archive. We got a few releases from Warner Archive for June. What are the 3 we got?
Okay, we've got 3. This is a Judy Garland triple features release month, basically. We've got For Me and My Gal, Ziegfeld Girl, and The Clock. And shockingly so, not really shockingly so, Warner Archive announced this themselves on their social media platforms. So they're back from the brink. They never really left quite so, but they're still around. So this is, like I said, all these films star Judy Garland, the great Judy Garland. One came out in 1942, 1941, 1945, so you're getting that post Wizard of Oz Judy Garland, where she's like a big star now, and she's just doing these musicals, and these are all really solid films. I really enjoyed them. I had fortunately already seen For Me and My Gal and The Clock before these were announced, so I had to watch Ziegfeld Girl, and Ziegfeld Girl was interesting because it's more Judy Garland in an ensemble cast. It's her, Hedy Lamarr, Lana Turner, Jimmy Stewart's in the movie in a much smaller role than I was expecting, but he's in the film. It's basically these 3 women from all different backgrounds, all different characters. They all become Ziegfeld girls, and it's you get all their 3 stories kind of, merging with one another because they're all part of this, the Ziegfeld. Doing Ziegfeld Follies, and it's really, really good. I really enjoyed it a lot. But we should kick it to Scott. I haven't heard from him in a while. Is he still here?
He's here.
Still here.
Okay, good.
I have not.
I just wanted to get his take on any of the. Are you a fan of Judy Garland?
I'm not a fan. I mean, I've only seen a couple of her films, none of which are part of this announcement, and this might sound like sacrilege, but I'm good on The Wizard of Oz. It's not one I feel the need to watch every year. Last time I watched it was in college, and it's like, okay, I'm good. I'm not discounting its place in film and pop culture history and all that. It just never really did it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
think
just
it's.
me.
That's actually very fascinating. We get guests on here who come to a lot of films later on in life and have completely different perspectives. I think we talked about it a little bit last week, Stephen.
Yeah.
With one of the guests we had on, where he's coming to films later in life, and it's just like a lot of the movies that have been part of pop culture history. They're just getting to now as adults, and it's a different
Yeah, I
perspective.
mean, it was
So
Dave Wayne said he's like, I haven't seen Star Wars. I haven't seen
he hasn't seen
he
Indiana
hasn't
Jones.
seen Indiana Jones. I mean, he's not. There's no shame in not seeing something. And that's just everybody comes to it in different times, different ways. And
Well, I know
Now,
with Oz, I'm sure our mom would have put it on, when it was on TV when we were kids. But even as a kid, I didn't become
yeah,
like, I need to see this movie. It was like, okay, it didn't really. Even as a kid, it was like, that was
Okay,
fun.
it's
And
fine.
The end. Yeah.
yeah. That's how it is. There's some things that I mean, like I'll be honest with you. I'll tell you one right now that's controversial. And especially because
hot take coming in.
especially since it's pretty like it kind of back out because it just had a new restoration. It's got a new 4K. The Godfather movies. I'm not super like all over them movies. Like I've seen all of them once, and I liked them, but I didn't love them. Like I mean, like the second one's the better one. The second one's the best one. I agree, and that's how a lot of people feel. But I'm not like when I'm thinking about my favorite, mob movies or gangster movies or crime movies, Godfather does not jump to my head as one of my favorites. It's not.
that is a hot.
It is a
hot
super
take.
hot take. I know it is.
Yeah, scolding.
Because
on
it's
fire
just
right now.
it's so fucking long. They're so damn long.
They are very long. I mean, and they do have. I mean, I think HBO was doing this. I don't know if it was a couple of years ago, where they would have them as just one long saga, where they would just connect all the movies together. So you're watching 1, 2, and 3 as all one film.
Well, that's something I think Coppola did that a long time ago, and I don't know if he just did it because he needed the money, but he assembled the first 2 films, and then I want to say later they did it with the third one, all in chronological order. And the second film, it's flashbacks. So when you watch the complete Godfather saga chronological order, it starts with the second movie.
Yeah.
With the flashbacks from the beginning of that film, and then
if you reorder everything,
So that's what it is,
which is amazing, which is cool.
And I don't know, it played on TV, it played on cable. I don't know if, I know there are some fans who were like, okay, we're getting the movies in 4K. What about that? And I don't know if Coppola necessarily wants that out. I mean, it'd be cool to have out as a novelty, but I don't think anyone's in any rush to put that out.
Oh yeah, I mean, we were talking about Paramount earlier and just the work they're doing with the Star Trek films now. I just bought the 4K, of the Godfather films, and they look amazing.
Yep.
I'd say the work they did on that is incredible work. I mean, for those of you, this is a whole big thing for a whole other podcast. But the amount of work they've done when it comes to restoring the Godfather, because they ran the Godfather so much on back in the day when it was in the theater, that like the original master would I think broke. Like it was just disintegrated because they ran it so many times, or maybe they used it to make so many prints off of it. It was something like that, something ridiculous like that. So there's a lot of restoration that's gone with it. But the new 4K, for those of you who haven't bought it yet, because there's a couple of different versions of it, Paramount went full tilt, really made it look amazing. But when it comes to I guess recutting stuff, we all know Coppola's recut Godfather Part 3 into the what's it called, the Coda cut, the what was it, the Death of Michael Corleone? I think that's the subtitle to it. That's the one that is in the set when you open up the set and you're going through, where the discs are. That's the one that's prominently featured. The old theatrical cut, which not a lot of people like, is there, but it's kind of like pushed off to the side. That's not the one Coppola wants you to watch anymore. He wants you to watch his preferred cut of the movie, which I haven't seen yet. So I can't comment on whether it's better than the original cut of the film or not.
I haven't watched it yet either. The reviews I've heard are sort of all over the place. Some that, it's so much better and it's a new experience, all the way to yeah, if you didn't like the movie, you're still not going to like it. And it kind of opens and closes. It's a little more abrupt. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, there's only so much you can do without, unless you've got a significant amount of untapped footage that's just sitting there, like alternate takes and stuff. I mean, Steven, they did the same thing with Rocky
I was
Four.
thinking the exact
Stallone
same
went back
thing.
and recut,
And the stuff,
recut Rocky Four with new takes.
Yeah, and
but he used different takes for the same scenes we already know.
yeah, and the thing is if that is that initially there was a reason why you didn't use that stuff is because it probably wasn't good, and that's what they did with Rocky Four is they just put stuff back in that sucked. And made them, and they thought they made the movie better. I'm sorry, it didn't. It did not make the movie better. It's actually funny now. The movie's like really funny, like even more funnier than it was before. But it's like some of the recuts and the choices to use different angles and stuff. I'm like, what the hell are they? They just did this because they needed to find a reason to call this a new cut of the movie.
Yeah, and they kind of, I don't know, not quite false advertisement. They said like, oh, the movie. Didn't they say like it had a longer runtime or something like that? But a lot of the new footage was like you just said, like different takes of same scenes that were already there.
There's like one new scene at the beginning.
Not new information that we were unprivy to before. So when it comes to, I guess what I was saying is like recutting Godfather Part 3, there's only so much you can do in terms of like, you know, if you used a bad take back then, do you have a better take now looking back at old footage? You know, or like we were saying, like do you just change it for the sake of changing it?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, and it's you know, like I said, there's there could be stuff. There's lots of things that are considered to be like, you know, all time great stuff, but you know, you might not care about that stuff as much as people assume you will. So not being like a super fan of Judy Garland or even really whoever it is or like whatever. It's like I get it. Like it's not. There's a lot of things I'm still trying to get around to see if I'll even like it.
Yeah, but going back to these Warner Archive releases, I do want to mention, for me and my gal Sal, it is the film debut of Gene Kelly.
Ooh, that's cool.
That's kind of important.
Cool. Yeah,
that's really cool. The Clock, I think, is a very, very good film. It's basically the premise of that film is that there is a GI who was on leave in New York City, I believe, and he's kind of like a fish out of water trying to figure out stuff to do, and he ends up meeting Julie Garland's character, and they have kind of a whirlwind type of romance. It reminded me a lot of Waterloo Bridge, which was a pre-code film that they ended up remaking later on with Vivian Leigh, I think. It reminded me of of a Jimmy Stewart film, actually, where it was similar premise, where it was a GI who was on leave and happens to meet a woman, and they have a bit of a romance thing going on. But this happens, and everything and it all takes place within 2 days, and just there's a lot of things happening in terms of this romance. You know, they kind of make life-changing decisions very abruptly in this type of in this film, which I think happened a lot during wartime. You know, the uncertainty of wartime. A lot of things happen that you don't really think through. This film was also directed by Vincente Minnelli, which I think is important to mention because he also directed Judy Garland in Meet Me in St. Louis a few years later. And yeah, okay. I think this is a really solid triple feature of Judy Garland films. If you're a big Judy Garland fan, I think you kind of have to get them. You probably already own them, probably on DVD, I assume. Warner Brothers, I know, put these out already. I have a TCM like Judy Garland 4-pack of DVDs. I don't think any of these are in there, but that's kind of how I've been consuming a lot of Judy Garland has been on DVD over the years. So I want to get more of that because, you know, these films need, I think, to look better. Yeah. You know, and Warner Archive does such great work. They really do. So even with all the turmoil with them kind of, you know, maybe going away, maybe not going away, the Warner Archive store kind of disappearing and all this kind of stuff, their product has still been solid as a rock throughout all of this. And Warner Brothers, we talked a little bit before, is their company's changing hands again, so they're going through all other mess, all other mess. Who knows what Warner Archive's going to look like going forward now? We'll be sticking around to see what happens.
We'll get a little bit more inside Warner Archive in a couple weeks. Actually, we'll have Matt Patterson on, who used to be a Warner Archives employee, so we'll have him to maybe give us a little bit more of an insight into Warner Archive. But all right, well. Let's move on to our next slate. What do we got next? We got how about we go to Umbrella? Umbrella. That's
we
going,
were just there.
We already did that. Eureka.
Get back on that plane.
Eureka, the other one. That's
we're going to Eureka, and this happens like clockwork. Every single time Arrow is releasing something, Eureka's right there before them. They're like Steven, you'll appreciate this. They're like kind of like the opening band.
They're kind of like a little brother, like a little brother that's like following you around, wants to copy you.
Ironically, Eureka and Arrow have been around for like the same amount of time.
I was going to say, not really in the sense of...
Not really. They're both kind of like the same... Not the same, but like they've both been putting out quality products for a very long time.
Maybe that's a bad example, but I'm just saying, like, typically the Arrow slates are huge and the Eureka slates are like smaller. So like it's like the smaller little brother that's like following the big Arrow guys around, and they work together.
Yeah, too, because we just saw
specifically on a release here
what they've been doing, where Arrow is working with Eureka, releasing, what was it? One Armed Boxer, I believe was the movie.
I'm not sure about that, but I mean I know that one of these new releases they're working with them. I think again, Running Out of Time. Is also getting Arrow release.
Yes, it is. But that's what I meant. Like, Arrow's going to release the U.S. version of a Eureka release.
Yes.
That's in
the One-Armed Boxer. Yeah.
And One-Armed Boxer was the other one.
Yeah.
That was recently done. But you are right. Running out of time. They did mention that that Arrow's releasing the U.S. version of this. And I don't know if it's going to have maybe an extra feature or not, because the main difference between... We talked about it at the time with One-Armed Boxer is that Arrow it was the same transfer, all that same stuff. They just had one extra that was exclusive to that release that Eureka did not have.
Yeah.
But this slate here is small. There's only 2 releases, but there's 5 films. So it's not exactly small. So you got a double feature of Running Out of Time 1 and 2, and then you've got a triple feature of Boris Karloff triple feature with a box set called Universal Terror, which contains Night Key, The Climax, and The Black Castle. The Climax is actually the first film in color that Boris Karloff was in. It's actually in Technicolor, and it's a musical as well.
What?
And Boris Karloff is not singing.
Okay, thank God.
He's not doing any of that, but there is musical moments in this movie. And yeah, I was able to see Running Out of Time, and I saw all the Karloff films. And I do want to mention the Karloff films. All 3 of these films are already available here in the U.S., put out by Shout Factory through their Universal Horror Collection sets, which I think there's about 6 or 7 of those. 2 of them are in the Universal Horror box set number 4. I believe it's the Night Key and the Black Castle, I believe, are in the same set. Yes. No, Night Key and the Climax are in the same set, which is number 4, and then the Black Castle is in volume 6 of the Universal Horror Collections. I gotta get more of those. I got the first one. There's actually a review of volume 1 up on the Chasing Labels YouTube channel. And they're all structured the same, so I didn't really feel like I needed to buy the other volumes right away to review them, because it's the same exact packaging for all of them. It's no big frills here. But you do get 4 movies per volume, and I've heard great things about those volumes. If you really want to delve into Universal's catalog of horror stuff they did in the 30s and 40s and 50s, those are pretty cool sets to get. A little too expensive for my taste, a little bit, but they're solid, and I know people who really like them. But Steven, did any of these interest you at all?
Well, it all interests me, always. It always interests me, Andrew. But John...
That was a good answer. Good answer.
Running Out of Time, it's we're getting more Johnnie too.
Yes.
Because Johnny 2's just been blowing up since the Criterion Blu-ray of Throwdown coming out. I feel like Johnny 2's blown up because now we have, of course, this, and then like that new label Chameleon Films is putting out, I think, 2 or 3 Johnny 2 films from their first slate of releases, and there might even be something else I'm not thinking of, but it seems like the director Johnny 2 is getting a lot of love right now, so that's cool. And then the Karloff stuff, I'm always looking at some of these old of course, guys that are known for doing the Universal Monster stuff, and seeing some of their other work around that is always cool. And didn't Eureka put out another Universal Karloff set just before this? Like, wasn't it called like Karloff at Universal or something like that?
I have to look that up, actually.
Yeah, I believe they've already come out with a Karloff set. It's like a red box.
There is something here. Karloff at Columbia.
Columbia. Okay, it's Columbia. Okay.
Yeah, this had a re-release. This had a regular release in 2021, and then a re-release and probably a more standard edition basically it had a regular release in 2021, then a standard release in February of this year.
Okay.
And it is Boris Karloff, Karloff at Columbia. It's got 6 movies in it. 2 discs, 6 movies. Goddamn, that's a lot of compression.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a lot of Karloff.
A lot of Karloff coming out.
So between that set and this set, you get 9 Karloff films.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Scott, anything interest you here?
I actually just wanted to give a shout out on the Running Out of Time, the cover artwork by my fellow designer who goes by the name Go Kaiju. And he does great work. He does a lot of work for that label Spectrum Films.
Mm-hmm.
So, Asian cinema is no stranger to that. And just when it pops up on my Instagram feed and, it's what I do. And, I take notice of this stuff. And it's like, oh, Go Kaiju's at it again. So, check him out online. He does great work.
Awesome.
Yeah, the cover art was really, really great and very indicative of what the films are about. I also would recommend this. I've only seen the first film, but it's very, very good. What happens is in the first film is there's this police officer and he's kind of like he's a detective, but he's one of those people who deals with like hostage situations and things like that.
Also, like
there's one scene.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you,
that?
but it's like that. What's that movie, The Interpreter?
Oh,
you talking about the one with Sam Jackson in it?
Samuel L. Jackson.
Is it The Interpreter?
The Negotiator.
The Negotiator. You're right.
Negotiator.
Yeah, that's it. The Negotiator.
Similar to that, but it has a more cat and mouse game going on here. Essentially, there's this guy who is, he only has a limited amount of time left to live, so he decides to, he has like 2 weeks left to live, and he decides to, kind of create some havoc. He's gonna, I don't want to give away the plot too much, but he wants to basically test this police officer, and see if he can match wits with him, and he does things to manipulate situations to get him to do that. So like he'll call him on the phone and be like, there's this bomb here or something like that. I need you, you're going to have to figure it out, or here's a clue to figure something out. Like they're playing this game with one another, and they have this back and forth, this chemistry with one another that's really, really good. And the actors are really fantastic in playing that off. It seems like something almost like a Batman Joker type of thing. I don't want to compare it to The Dark Knight or anything like that, because it's not that antagonistic, but it has that game of like battle of wills going on. And it's really, really well done, and I was really liking it a lot. And it's well worth people's time. You can actually, I think I watched it on, there's a version of it on YouTube right now you can watch. So I think both of these films may actually be available on YouTube right now if you are really curious about it. I would recommend it, and I really want to see the second one just to see, how it works, because it's the same character, the same police officer character from the first film in the second film. So it is a direct sequel, and I really like this director a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I just learned about him from Throwdown, and I can't recommend that movie enough to people.
Okay.
It's legitimately a fantastic film.
Awesome.
So I want to see more of his work and get more of his work.
All right. Yeah, I'm not. I haven't even dipped my toe in yet. I want to watch Throwdown, and I haven't watched it yet because it sounds so awesome, and I gotta get to it. But let's go over to our last slate, which is the Big Guns Arrow video, and I think our man Scott here has done some work in there, so we'll get to that in a second.
Oh yes,
And
yes he has. There's a whole page on Scott's website, scottsaslow.com, dedicated to Arrow.
Although
So-
I do have to point out, and one day I'm going to have to update that page with some of the booklets and other things I've done, because for the most part, a lot of these releases, when I mention layout and design artwork by someone else, what you're looking at on my website is that person's work.
Yes.
So all my work is on the inside, which makes it a little difficult sometimes to promote on social media when it's, someone else doing the artwork, and and people will comment, "Oh, great work, Scott." And it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's not mine."
Yeah.
My stuff, you'll see it later when you get the release.
I'm
and
actually
open
glad
it.
you mentioned that, because I'm pretty sure we've made that mistake here on the podcast, because we've mentioned when your work comes out, we mention it that's you doing it, but we definitely have said that exact same thing, and then we would have to correct ourselves later on, because you do specifically mention layout and design, but if you're not someone who's a graphic designer, you don't understand the difference between layout and design and artwork.
And people who do the artwork, sometimes they do title treatment, sometimes they don't, sometimes I do it. It just becomes this semantic exercise, and I really do my best for any other designers who might be listening who work with Arrow. I mean, I do my best to give credit where it's due, because I'm just one person on a team of people. But other people might see it, and I don't want people to think I did everything. Believe me, if it's a release where I'm doing everything, you'll know I did everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like that here on your website you do mention, artwork by whomever, because oftentimes on the websites, they don't mention who does the artwork. Some do. I know Criterion does it, but they do it in very small print at the very bottom. So you really got to squint to see it.
And Arrow lists it too, usually on the bottom line of the specs.
Yes, of the specs. And it's usually just, if you're not looking for it, you may miss out, because we're seeing a lot of similar people come up over and over again who are doing great work, and I think they should be recognized for it. We've been fortunate enough to talk with a lot of people who do a lot of great work on a lot of these releases, so they should be, full credited for it. But moving on to Arrow, Steven, we've got a couple of movies coming out. Steven, do you want to go through them?
Sure. Let's start with the big one. We're getting into some more
Headlining.
Yeah, headlining the more Argento. Of course, that's been a big headline for many months now. Just the 4Ks of the Argentos coming back out, and this one we have is Tenebre on 4K and Blu-ray. It's going to have a couple different versions. You're going to get that new artwork version, and then it looks like there's also a 4K version coming from Synapse. So
I was just going to mention
look for that one. That one's got the more original artwork look to it.
And of course the Arrow release is going to have the new artwork and then the original poster artwork as well, which I've done with all of these 4K releases. This is technically a Region B release. 4K obviously is
free,
region free across the world.
Yeah,
but Synapse is putting out the Region A release of this.
Yeah,
tandemly, I assume.
Yeah. So
I gotta do the comparison side to side when it comes to features still, but just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But go on.
Also, what we have here, and I'm gonna save what I know is Scott's for last here. So we got Hell High. Which is looks like a great time, just based off the Andrew's shaking his head no, so maybe not.
It is kind of a fun time with a really cool third act.
Okay,
but to get to that third act is you got to get through a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we also have we also have another Giallo Essentials set. This is being the black edition. We've had a red edition, we've had a yellow edition, and this is the black edition. And this one apparently has this is the first, I think, of the sets that actually has new unreleased Giallo films, because the other ones were kind of just like re-releases. But these apparently are all new, I believe, to Arrow, and that is Smile Before Death, and The Weapon, The Hour, The Motive, and The Killer Reserved 9 Seats, which is an amazing title. But from there, we also have The Sacred Spirit, which is, I have not seen the movie, but there has been a little bit of controversy about some artwork on this.
A tad.
So,
A tad.
So
People, I noticed it right off the bat as well. So it's not like anybody was unnoticing this.
yeah, we'll come back to that in a second, and then
We'll come back to that.
And
yeah,
then
we'll get to the rest of this
lastly, I
thing.
want to bring up The Righteous, which is something Scott worked on. He worked on this release here. So yeah, please, Scott, talk to us about The Righteous.
Well, no, I'm working on the. Again, I'm working on everything on the inside. So the layout. I started last week. The layout is done. I believe the artwork that we're seeing in the thumbnail for the O card is by a company called Oink Creative. They do a lot of work with Arrow, and then another designer, Grant Boland, did some new artwork, which you can see if you go on its page on Arrow's website. And it's always interesting, doing artwork for a more recent film versus an older film where maybe there's more. We're not doing artwork, but the layout where, usually an older film, there's more to draw upon. But of course, here the plus side is because it's such a recent film, I'll probably start working on the booklet next week. There should be plenty of stills.
Yeah.
Because the last couple titles I worked on for Arrow, I did, let me pull it up real quick. They were announced 2 months ago. I did the layout and booklet design for Edge of Sanity and Initiation of Sarah, and for each of those I had maybe 3 stills.
Yeah.
So you just kind of have to improvise, but this one I don't expect that to be a problem since it's such a recent movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, since it's more recent, the film is also gonna look. It's when it comes to like there needing to be a restoration, that's probably not necessary. So like whatever there is out there already looks good, so you don't have to like wait for any kind of work to be done on the movie. So yeah, I mean that's that. Is this? Do you find yourself having to work on more newer, less on newer films than older films? Do you find most of your work being older films?
Mostly older, but only because most of Arrow's stuff is older films. Every now and then they'll acquire a new title. I've worked on. I've worked on a handful of them. What was the most recent one? Dementor.
I'll say Dinner in America was from like 2019. 2020?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, did the layout and booklet for that one.
You did? Oh.
Yeah, John Pearson did the artwork, and one called Threshold.
Yes.
Coffee and Cigarettes did that artwork. The Bloodhound with, they got Tony Stella, the man, to do that one. And, a handful, but... but obviously they don't have the history that the older films have.
Do you find yourself when you're between older films and newer films, do you find that your design, like the way you like to either design something is a little different? Like, do you find yourself like thinking differently about how you lay it out and everything?
Not really. That's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of any specific example. I mean, I'm ultimately, with newer films, often the filmmakers are on social media, so it's just like, well, I better not screw this up because they'll see it, they'll find me.
So there's maybe a little more pressure for a newer one.
Maybe, but having been a film student once myself, and I mean, I want, especially if it's a movie from, younger filmmakers who are maybe just starting out, I want their work to look the best it can, and I want to portray everyone and everything in the best light.
Yeah. Yeah.
Versus an older film where, all the filmmakers are dead and I don't have to worry.
You don't have to worry as much, yeah. As long as Arrow's okay with it, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually just going to ask you, I guess, about an older film. Doing the layout and work for those Claude Chabrol sets, were those, like, obviously bigger, longer, more involved projects because it's a multi-movie,
Yes.
sets.
Well, those packages were basically conceived by Tony Stella. He did the artwork and came up with those title treatments, and then he did separate artwork, for a project like this. And some designers do this, some don't. So Tony would have done artwork for the box, which then I need to sort of rearrange and fit within an established template. And then sometimes they change the templates on me, so all the work has to be redone, usually just to move everything over by a millimeter. All of the separate slip covers, he did all the artwork for that. He did the separate artwork for the booklet cover, and then he did separate artwork for the discs. And everything is, I'll get everything in one big zip file, and then everything's in its own folder, and everything is organized, and so everything for this movie goes together, everything for this movie, and got to make sure the titles, everything is, the colors are consistent, and everything is, the placement of everything is consistent. So, some titles are longer than others. So then it's like, well, should I start the title up here, or should I start it down here? Should I make it, adjust the size so it all fits, or, a lot of tiny little decisions that have to be made. And I know for the most recent one, Twisting the Knife, that collection, I had the artwork originally in my first pass, and I think we even got as far as the announcement. I had the artwork a little too low, and then Tony messaged and asked me, can you shift it up a little bit? I said okay, and no problem. Tony's one of the only artists where I'm often in regular communication with him, just to make sure everything's looking okay. I do my best, and I always try to, again, give credit where it's due. But I don't think anyone who follows my work would look at that and think like, oh yeah, Scott painted that, because I can't do that.
Well, yeah, I remember. I think we talked. I think I posted about that first Chabrol set. I'd gotten it in myself, and then I did a shout out to you, but then you messaged me and told me, hey, could you add Tony to this?
Yes,
and I did. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I know.
Oh yeah, because I think that was one of those where we didn't know. Well, we may have screwed up and credited.
It was one of them things where I just didn't include everybody. I kind of just said, "Hey, our buddy Scott did this.
I know the person who did this.
Yeah.
In painting it very
broadly.
Terms, you got to be a little more specific.
Yeah.
But Tony's stuff, it's great. I don't know if there'll be a volume 3. It was fun to work on 1 and 2, and but yeah, it's just a lot, especially when it comes down to reviewing, where it's just my desktop is just full of JPEGs, version 1, version 2, and constantly flipping in between just to make sure the spacing and everything's consistent. And those I'm working. I'm waiting to hear back, but I'm about to start deep dive work in another multi-film box set for Arrow. That
Come on, man.
Designer originally
Come on.
had.
What is that?
So,
No, I'm just kidding.
I know you can't say it. Come on, Stephen. Have some.
I'm being. He knows I'm messing with him. I don't need
but
that.
That one's going to be, again, that one's most likely going to be a similar challenge.
Yeah.
Just
right.
Making sure everything's consistent.
Yeah, it seems like you have to be almost a meticulous perfectionist to do graphic design, or just to do especially something on this scale where everything is in a uniform project like this. Like everything's got to look the same aesthetically, or else people are going to notice that things are off. I mean, if you're a collector out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because people love to always comment on how, oh, why does this volume not look like this? Why is this a little off from this? People notice those things when you're so meticulous. But yeah, for those of you listening, check out Scott's website, scottsaslow.com, and check out all of his work. Chances are, if you're a regular collector of Arrow, of Kino, or even some of his more, some of the other, boutique labels that we talk about, chances are you have some of his work already. And it's all great stuff.
Right,
but Stephen, let's dive back into this slate here. where we've got the headliner is Tenebre, which is just going right along with all these Argento sets that keep coming out. I didn't know what the next one was, but I guess Tenebre is it. And I don't know if you've seen this film.
I have.
Steven.
I watched it.
You have. So have I. So we're on the same wavelength in terms of this movie. I really like this movie.
I liked it too. Yeah.
It's a later film than the ones we've been getting so far. It is. I think it's more closely in line with Phenomena in terms of.
Yeah, I think Phenomena came out right
time.
before this. I think this was just after that. Yeah.
Yeah, we've gotten. It's very interesting how these releases go because Bird with Crystal Plumage and Cat and Nine Tails, and Deep Red are like his early work, and then we're getting Phenomena and Tenebre now, which is like a decade later or so, or even more so, and it's going to be an interesting cross section of Argento's work. And this is actually the first release, I know, other than Phenomena, where we haven't gotten a previous Blu-ray like limited edition version of.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. And of course, I'm assuming the original art is going to be a limited in terms of copies like the other ones are, so you may want to jump on that right away. I know Phenomena was kind of a pain to get if you're here in the US. I had to get mine from Amazon UK, I think. Or was it Zavvi? It was one of those two. Because just no one here really carried it for Phenomena. But I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
Adding more to that collection.
Yeah, I mean the movie is just it's a fun, like, once again, like a lot of giallos, a mystery, trying to find who this killer is. There's a lot of great stylish scenes of people getting slashed, and I mean it's a fun movie. I enjoy. Some of his, some of Argento's films are a little harder to get into, if you're not like versed in giallo films. And I'm still relatively new in it. Like I'm not like super giallo guy, but like I've watched all the ones we were just talking about. And Bird with the Crystal Plumage is probably my favorite. But this would be like, I think, my second favorite. I know people love Deep Red. I know Deep Red's considered
really good.
his best, maybe, up there with Suspiria.
Phenomena is not, yeah. Suspiria, well, the thing is, depending on who you talk to, depending on who you're discussing things, Suspiria, they don't consider giallo. Phenomena is not really giallo. Tenebre, I think it would be by like his return to giallo.
Yeah.
Or maybe not so much, because he did do like opera as well.
Well, that's after this. That's after this.
Oh, that's after this. But then there's Inferno as well.
Inferno's before this, yeah.
Yeah, okay. You got these timelines down.
Oh, I looked at it recently.
Usually
I looked at it recently.
Oh, okay. There you go. The research.
If I look at something, within the last hour, I can maybe remember it.
Oh,
but it goes away after about an hour. Yeah.
You got the great short-term memory.
Short-term memory's there. Long-term memory is gone.
It's not there anymore,
Not
man.
there,
It's just it goes on you, especially when you're doing this and you've got so many movie things going on in your head at the same time. And of course, Steven has life things going on as well, so he's got like both things hitting him.
And I was wrong. I was wrong about one thing. Phenomena is after Tenebre. So
yes, Phenomena is 3 years after Tenebre, and then Opera is 2 years after Phenomena.
Yeah.
Came out in 1987. Interesting year.
But I was right about everything else.
Yeah, you were right about
Inferno
everything
is
else.
before Tenebre.
And Inferno was beforehand.
Yeah.
But I don't know if people. Yeah, it's I think like Suspiria, Inferno is not quite considered giallo because they're more supernatural.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crazy things happening. Suspiria is my favorite Argento film, for people keeping track at home, because it's so out there. I even like the remake that was done.
I still haven't seen the remake
as
yet.
well.
Yeah.
That only ended up getting a Blu-ray release. I'm pretty sure it just got a Blu-ray release. That was what Luca Guadagnino did that remake. Yes, I was gonna look it up, but I remembered who it was.
I heard good things.
Yeah, it's another. Yeah, it was just a wild.
I heard it's a little different,
art house
little different
Love
take,
it.
but it still like has the spirit of the original there.
Yeah, it has that same, just art house surrealism, avant-garde type things going on, supernatural weird things happening, A lot of metaphors, a lot of themes, all that good stuff. But Tenebre is, I think, the highlight of the set, probably for a lot of people, or this release slate for a lot of people. I wasn't able to see any of the newer stuff, the Righteous
Yeah, me
and the
either.
Sacred Spirit. I couldn't find it anywhere. Not
Yeah.
streaming anywhere. Nothing. So I was kind of disappointed in that because I wanted to check it out. I did get to see one of the Giallo films. I saw the last one in the set, coincidentally, the one that Steven really liked the
Title 4, yeah.
the title for, which was the Killer Reserve 9 Seats, which has a brand new audio commentary by Kat Ellinger,
Ah, yes.
who was a guest here on the show as well, which is really, really cool. And these are all getting brand new 2K restorations. So yeah, like Steven said, these are new. You know, they're not repackaged. I liked the movie a little bit. There's a lot going on in this movie. It all takes place at like an old theater. It has a very basically all of these people. A rich man gathers together friends and relatives at an abandoned theater he owns, and then people start getting killed. And now, who's doing the killing? Why are they doing the killing?
What's
There's supernatural things going on.
what's that recent film we just talked about? It's a more recent film that was a giallo-ish that was in a theater. What's it called? Somebody help me, please.
Oh man,
Had 2 releases. I got it. I can't get up, but I got it. I own the movie. And it was about
this is gonna be.
the retro theater, and then the killer was coming in just killing people in the theater. I'm trying to remember what it's called.
Oh my
Somebody's
goodness,
screaming
I
at
know.
me. Somebody's
Yeah, someone's yelling at you through the.
and he
I have no
ate
idea.
eyeballs. Remember that? He ate eyeballs in the movie.
Oh my goodness, that was the modern movie.
Yeah.
Yes, the movie from a couple of years ago. I love how you remember that. I remember that fact.
It's hard to
about the
forget a
movie.
guy eating eyeballs.
It really is. It really is. It was and it was a Spanish language
Yes.
film, I believe.
Yes.
It was. Yeah.
It's gonna kill us.
Oh, yeah. It's gonna be. I would look in my letterbox, but it would be so far deep. We'd be here for another hour.
Yeah.
Um.
But yeah,
But I
it
know
kind of
exactly
makes
what
me
you're
think
talking
about
about.
that. You know, another film about another giallo that's based around a theater. So that interests me definitely.
What is interesting is that Boris Karloff film from that Eureka set, to go back a little bit, is similar to that, and not really similar. It's because when I think things going on in a theater, I'm thinking Phantom of the Opera,
Yeah.
and the climax feels like a lighter version of Phantom of the Opera. So for those of you who know Phantom of the Opera, will kind of understand what I'm talking about. The premise of that movie was that like Boris Karloff was so obsessed with one of the women in one of the operas that he murdered her, and then 10 years later another woman appears who sounds and looks just like her, so he becomes like obsessed all over again. And it has Phantom of the Opera has that obsessive type thing going on in it, and happens to take place at an opera,
Yeah.
But moving back to Arrow, while Steven, I probably frantically looks for.
I'm trying to figure out this
that
damn
movie.
release.
Yeah, I did get to see. Like I said, I did get to see Hell High, which is getting 2 different versions, release versions here, where it's getting Hell High with really insane artwork, and then also Raging Fury as well. I guess that was an alternate title. Both titles really kind of don't describe the movie too accurately. Raging Fury is a little more accurate than Hell High. It's a movie where these really crappy delinquent teenagers kind of torture their teacher just because they're just terrible people, and she ends up either dying and coming back from the dead and being a vengeful type of thing, or maybe she's just not quite dead and she just kind of completely broken psychologically, but then she ends up kind of seeking revenge on them. That's the general premise of that movie. Steven, you find it yet?
No. Just keep.
Nah,
Yeah.
I think it's lost.
It's not. I'm never gonna find it. Not while I'm trying to listen to you. But
No. I mean, if we had more time.
yeah, it's gonna. I'm gonna have to bring it up first thing next episode.
Yeah, I'm kind of stalling for time, trying to see if you could do
Yeah,
it.
I appreciate you trying.
because we do
but-
want to talk about the Sacred Spirit a little bit, because we did mention the cover artwork may look very similar to keen eyes out there, specifically keen eyes who've been buying movies now for a while, specifically the Criterion Collection edition of the Rainer Werner Fassbender film. What's it?
Man on the
Steven
Wire.
called?
Man on the Wire.
Man on, or is it World on a Wire?
World on a Wire.
Yeah.
World
yeah.
on a Wire. Man on the Wire is the documentary.
That's the documentary
about-
version. Yeah.
Yeah, the documentary about the guy who walked between the Twin Towers in New York on a tightrope. And then they turned that into a movie directed by Robert Zemeckis,
Yeah,
starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt a few years ago, and that was when 3D was still a craze. So basically, it's like, hey, come watch this movie where you can watch this in 3D and get.
Hey, it's about
Vertigo.
to hey, that's about to, it's about to come back with Avatar 2, man. Get ready for that.
Oh, I heard, not to get off topic, but I heard they showed some footage of it at CinemaCon recently, and I heard it wowed people. I heard it wowed people,
God.
so it's supposed to come out this
Please
year.
don't bring 3D back. Let's not do that
I'm
again.
with you on that one.
Yeah, God, I don't want this whole thing where every animated movie needs to be in 3D and God, it takes up too much time in the theater. Like it could be for something else,
I read the quote. I forget if it was a studio guy or a theater person, but I think that the article on that screening at CinemaCon, and they said, we're releasing this in more formats than any movie has ever been released.
Oh, Jesus.
Between IMAX and 2D and 3D and Dolby and everything, and I'll see it, and if it's great, I'll shout it from the rooftops. But I hate it's such a cliche, not to get too off topic, but yeah, I mean, how many people really? Well, that's a whole other podcast. Like, how many people are really even know? It's like average person on the street. What was the name of the lead character in Avatar?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Andrew, go ahead.
Was it Jake Sully?
Yes.
Oh,
Of course, I knew he would
know.
know it. He
I haven't watched that movie in years.
But the thing
I don't
is,
want to be a hater. I love Cameron.
yeah,
too,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm a big fan of James Cameron to an extent. I think he is personally, on a personal level, seems like he's maybe a little pompous, but I don't. Other than that, I leave the filmmaker for his filmmaking. I do think he's created some amazing work. I think he's maybe a little bit overrated as an actual filmmaker. I think he's like, he knows how to make a sequel. Like, he's fantastic at that usually. I don't know that he spends too much time caring about directing and telling a story through direction, but he's great at visuals, and there's a lot of filmmakers that are great at visuals, but there's a difference between just showing great images and telling a story through images. And I don't know if he's that, like, he cares about that much. Like, I don't know. I'm probably another hot take today.
Yeah,
I'll
that may
respectfully
be another
disagree
hot-
with that, but
Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine.
I think he's good. Yeah, he's a good filmmaker. I mean, it doesn't help that we haven't seen a film from him in
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't know.
13 years.
yeah.
There's that whole recency bias thing where, you're used to seeing, if you see someone's work all the time, you're more able to judge it, I guess, unless you go back and visit his work frequently, which I don't really do a lot. Because I've seen a lot of his better stuff for very much. I mean, we still need Blu-rays of some of his stuff.
Yeah.
And it's been, taking forever for a lot of his work. I mean, they still haven't figured out how to release a great, truly great version of Terminator and Terminator 2 on disc yet.
That's true.
That I heard that Terminator 2 4K, which people were so gung-ho for because they were like, finally it's going to be good. And then it just turned out to look terrible, which is so unfortunate.
I still have my. It's funny, of all the filmmakers, I've got the Alien, the big box set,
Yeah.
of course, with all of those. And then I have the Blu-ray of Avatar, the fancy, the one they
Yep.
reissued later with all the extras.
Yep,
and it is
got
a
that.
good movie, But all of his like Terminator, I still have the old DVD with all the extras that haven't been carried over. T2, I have the, if you remember, the Ultimate and Extreme editions in the fancy metal packaging. True
I do
Lies,
remember that.
True Lies, I don't own at all. And then The Abyss. I mean, I remember riding my bike to buy the DVD of the Abyss After School. I'm 39, and we still haven't gotten a better release than that one.
There's been, they've been promising us a Blu-ray release of True Lies for years now, and it has just not come out. I don't know what they're waiting for. The Abyss is the same thing. They've been promising us a Blu-ray release of The Abyss, and it hasn't come out at all either. And the same thing with David Fincher's Panic Room. Sony, years ago, said we're putting out Panic Room on Blu-ray. Never came out.
I mean, they said that recently. That wasn't even that long ago. It was like a year ago. A 4K for Panic Room was announced or was talked about.
Yeah, they were gonna put out. Yeah, they were gonna put out. I think Panic Room in 4K, and I think Girl with the Dragon Tattoo in 4K around the same time, and they didn't do either of those things. And it just, I don't know why they're taking so long with specifically those two James Cameron films, because people will buy them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm hoping now with this whole fervor of a lot of these mainstream studios dipping into their back catalog that they'll finally put out, The Abyss, and they'll finally put out True Lies. It's, really and even Avatar doesn't have a 4K release, which is kind of surprising to me, which I did hear recently that is upcoming.
That'll probably be later this year, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll time it
with the
when
release
the
of the new
out.
one. Yeah, it'll.
Yeah, they'll.
They're probably going to even
just
put
in time for the holidays.
They're probably even going to put that back out in the theaters. The first one, I'm sure it's.
They are. They're putting out in like September.
Yeah,
I think they said that at CinemaCon as well.
With Disney behind it, it's going to get pushed hard. But yeah, I mean, look.
Yeah,
I don't hate James. I don't
hate
James Cameron. Okay, I just want to make that clear, guys. I love Terminator 2 is one of my most favorite films of all time. Terminator, but I don't know. I guess he's an interesting filmmaker, and it's hard for me to connect with him because he's so varied. Like he's made less than 10 movies in 30 years. Like something like that. Like it's not. I don't even think he's got 10 movies in his career, full length. So it's like. I don't connect with him as a filmmaker because I find, but he what I'll say about him is that every time he comes out with something, he's trying to make it a new experience, which is a great thing. I just wish we got more of him so I could find a way to connect with him as a filmmaker. But all I look at him as is a guy that wants to make big spectacles, and I don't know about anything more than that, because I'm looking for.
I mean, yeah, I don't. A lot of Titanic is a movie that people have talked about incessantly over the last, for 25 years. That was such a landmark film from when it came out, and people still love it to this day. So I don't want to, just disavow Titanic or anything like that. People rib it for whatever. People love it for whatever. But it's, it's a gigantic film that is a cultural staple, He did that with Terminator. He did that with Titanic, Avatar. People are still talking about Avatar.
I'm surprised.
Whether it's
I'm
negative
surprised.
or not, negative or not.
It's been 12 years.
It's
been like 12 years.
It's been a while. But back to, I don't even know how we got on this conversation.
Who knows?
My fault.
But
no, it's not. No, I don't mind it.
Not at all.
Yeah.
We go off on tangents.
It
all
gave me
the time.
Gave me a chance to say I hate James Cameron.
Yeah,
No, I'm just kidding.
yeah,
I'm just kidding.
It gave the people a chance to know about Steven's deep dark hatred of James Cameron.
Yeah.
But back to the sacred spirit when it comes to its, the way
the controversy around the artwork.
I guess controversy, you would say, because the artwork looks very similar to World on a Wire, the Rainer Werner Fassbinder film, and that Blu-ray's been around for a very long time. So it's not like people don't know what it looks like. That Blu-ray's been around since 2012, so literally a decade.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, the design, I mean, Scott could perhaps say a little bit more about when it comes to the technical aspects of it. The design of it when it comes to just the geometric shapes and whatnot.
But to finish off the controversy, apparently, I think it was James Flower came out and it was Fran. It was Fran. And he came out and said that
they're going to change.
They're going to change it. He was mortified by seeing how close it was, and that it'll get changed. So it's unfortunate. We don't know everything. Nobody wants to make any statements and say that somebody intentionally copied somebody. I don't think that that's a good thing to do because we don't know the circumstances around it. Because when it comes to art, we're influenced by so many things, and sometimes that influence is subconscious. Like, you don't really realize you've done something that looks like something else, and that could be the case, that could not be the case, but I don't think we should be judging somebody and say, hey, he copied that person. Like, don't do that. But Scott?
Well, I mean, when I do my own personal work, I'm horrified that, I'll share it on Instagram and Twitter, and then a couple days later, someone will send me a message like, excuse me.
Yeah.
But I think I'm not involved with this release, and I'm a fan of the design, I'm a fan of everyone involved. I'm not working on this release. But I think at the end of the day, sometimes designers, maybe just stick a little too close to their inspiration, really. I mean, that's pretty much it. There was I don't know if you'd remember a few years ago when the movie Solo, the Star Wars spinoff, all the posters were coming out, and the agency BLT, which is actually the one I interned for in 2016, they were accused of copying or not. I don't know what the word is, copy, whatever, but whoever designed a certain series of posters, they were inspired by these album covers that Sony put out in Europe. And it's like, a little too close.
I remember that.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I remember that.
So
the font and the color scheme was very, very similar.
And there are
and
ways
they had to change it.
There are ways to sort of, trying to think how to explain it. You have your influences, you have your references and everything, and there are ways to sort of pick and choose. I mean, there are plenty of designers where if you look at my posters, I'm sure you might be like, oh, well, I could tell he looked at a poster from so-and-so and that informed this poster, but it's a thin line and every project is different. And, does it mean that every piece of art with the same shapes is copying World on a Wire? No, but I mean, I noticed it immediately, and given it's a little too close for comfort, but it'll be taken care of.
Yeah.
So,
and
props
there's
all around.
so much stuff being made. I mean, you could probably connect people's work without even thinking about it, and we could do that all day if somebody had that much time on their hands, looking at everybody's artwork and saying, "Hey, this looks like this, and that looks like." I mean, how many what's the guy that has movies come out? Sappy movies that come out from the. I should know this, knowing that I'm from North Carolina, and all his movies, or he makes all his movies. He did movies like Walk to Remember. What's the author of the books?
Oh my!
Oh, Nicholas Sparks.
Yeah, Nicholas Sparks. Every movie poster for a Nicholas Sparks movie looks exactly the same, where two people look at each other, and it's like that design is used 1,000 times. It's.
Oh yeah. If we're talking poster art, we're talking people just seemingly. I know Scott can probably say this more. People are using the same exact templates for everything now, and it's just unbelievably close to one another. They're even using same color schemes, and it's like this is the same exact poster.
And it becomes especially again, I'm going to be freelancing for this agency for the next few weeks, and I don't know what movies I'm going to be working on, but sometimes you just sort of fall, depending on the movie and the genre and everything, sometimes you just sort of fall into that same. If it's this kind of movie, the poster should look like this, but then it's like, well, all these other movies did the same thing. And even at my internship a while back, I had some ideas, and I remember my boss would tell me, well, we can't really do that because this other movie did it. And it's like, on one hand, it's good. We don't want to copy anything. On the other hand, it's like, so a movie that came out a year ago that no one remembers did it, which means it can never be done again. But even though it will be done again by someone.
It's almost...
Yeah, I bet you marketing probably goes into that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole big thing. It's not just the artwork for the sake of the artwork. It's all for I guess if this looks a certain way, it'll be more appealing to this demographic.
Yeah.
It'll be more appealing to that demographic or whatever. And it's I bet you that goes into all of that.
Yeah, another thing is it's I think a lot of companies will fall back on original artwork just to save from having this headache. Warner Archive is always just using poster art. There, a lot of, Indicator, they, of course, they have probably like a layout designer to make sure things fit properly, but usually they're using original artwork, so they're not having to kind of create something from scratch, or and so that's probably where they save some money and some time, is to not deal with that as much, right?
And yeah, I suppose so. I was thinking of a specific example. I mentioned I do work for, I've done a couple of things for La La Land Records with film scores, and one of their art directors, there are a few art directors who work with them on a regular basis, and this one designer, Jim Titus, I just pulled it up on my end, they released the scores for a couple of mid-century melodramas, I think Peyton Place and Hemingway's Adventures of a Young Man and Peyton Place, and usually on these albums it's the original artwork.
Yeah.
And I've discovered this myself. Sometimes the original artwork doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Or you put it all together and you look at it and it's like, no, what? That's a little too bland.
Yeah.
So even if it's an older film, there's that urge to create something new anyway. Especially if it's like a movie that's been reissued countless times. It's like, well, okay, this time what can we do that's different? Or maybe use a poster from a different country. Let's use the Italian poster instead of the American poster, because there are already a dozen releases with the American poster.
Yeah, I think it's one thing that would be difficult is, and maybe this is just something that we have to like not have a bias towards, but like it seems like when it comes to older films, you're a lot more inclined to want to go with something that almost looks like, like artwork, something that's been drawn, where there was time put into a lot, instead of using like stills from the movie. For instance, like the new cover I seen for the 4K of Singing in the Rain, is got like a amped up version of like something from the movie, like Gene Kelly on it. It's in all this bright colors, but it's not like artwork. It's just him from a still from the movie. And I think we're more inclined to want to see artwork because that's how posters and artwork used to be done for movies back then. And like more recent films, we're more inclined to be like, if it's like from the movie and maybe just, a little bit stylized, that's kind of okay. But I personally go more towards artwork all around, usually. Like I want something that seems like it was made specially for the movie, and it's like a new interpretation. It's its own art by itself, not just like the film's its own art. Everything is, this physical media stuff is its own artwork for this particular thing. So I prefer like something created newly for, the thing. But all of this stuff looks good usually. And I know you have your particular style too. So what do you think about all that? Like, do you find that interpretation correct? Like older films, we typically like fall on the side of like needing artwork for it, or like, do you think?
I think so, but again, it's like sometimes when you're doing it, you find that it doesn't always work.
Yeah,
I mean, you want it to work, but or it just doesn't look good, and not every. I mean, we romanticize older posters and artwork, and for a good reason. But you know what? There are older posters that aren't good looking at all.
I agree with you. Yeah.
And if that's the case, then it's like, might as well try to come up with something newer. And there are ways of doing that are better than others. Even I did La La Land put out a remastered Friday the 13th score album last year. They found better sources in the studio vault, but they didn't want to use the same artwork that every other Friday the 13th release is used. So they brought me on to create something new. It's just, the boat and the lake, it's all very simple and minimalist. But, and again, in a case like that, it's like, well, we don't want to do the same poster. Let's just do something different this time around.
Yeah, a little bit different perspective instead of just the same. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely the more this stuff gets re-released and released, there's different versions of the same movie. It becomes more and more difficult for a guy like you to come up with something unique. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting world you're living in.
Yeah, and there's one, and even that Singing in the Rain. Oh God, now I'm totally blanking on the name of the movie. But even something like Singing in the Rain, that's not bad.
No.
Like as far as doing new artwork for a classic. Like, that one's not bad, but there's one, but, even with Warner Brothers, sometimes, they'll take, like, classic films from the 30s and 40s and, actually what bothers me more is using modern fonts.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It really is.
Yeah.
First world problem, by the way. But, where they'll take some old Barbara Stanwyck or Katharine Hepburn movie, and when you're looking at it, you think, it's like, is it a movie from the 30s or 40s, or is it like a Hallmark movie? Because they'll do a color treatment, they'll use modern fonts for it, and it's like, come on.
Yeah, and I will say this about like old movie posters are gorgeous. I wish I had a collection of them myself, but oftentimes they don't actually represent the movie at all accurately.
They don't. Yeah.
and like they'll have characters, or they'll depict maybe certain scenarios on the covers that have nothing to do with the movie whatsoever. And it's just so you kind of do you lean into that, or do you go with a more modern take? What I really love about what a lot of these boutique labels do is the alternate artwork stuff. Well, they'll do brand new stuff, and then they'll give you the old original poster work if you want to like flip the covers or stuff like that. I just like having options. I really like having options because there's so many different aesthetics that you can apply to certain films that I like having those options to do so.
And just for an example, you could look it up later. For an example of what I was talking about with Warner Brothers, look up the Blu-ray for the movie Christmas in Connecticut.
I have that Blu-ray actually. I watch it every year or so.
Where they're
but I think I know exactly
what you're talking.
Like a
modern holiday movie.
Yeah.
They did that with a lot of like classic movies for a lot of Blu-ray releases, and it just didn't work. And I never liked. Yeah, it looks like a modern movie. Yeah. You're right. I'm looking at it right now. No, not a big fan of that cover.
And when I do stuff for Arrow, for the most part, if the reverse is the older poster, and it's just one JPEG, I'll go in and trace the title. So then I have a scalable, vectorized version of the title that I could use on the spine and elsewhere apart from the poster. Because that title does not exist on its own. It's just one flat piece of artwork that you're getting.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of facets to this that I don't think people think about, and it's probably something I subconsciously thought about, but yeah, the fonts, and I don't want to, I don't know names, so I'm not really shouting anybody out, but the one thing cover that came to mind too was like some of them Universal horror sets from, who was it from? They're a little earlier. There might be Shout, maybe, I can't, but the fonts on them were like weird. I'm trying to remember which Universal set it was, but it might even be from a boutique label.
You mean the Universal Classic monsters, or
no? Not the ones that I
not the Frankenstein or the Dracula.
No, they're like a bunch of Universal horror movies, but they're not the main ones. And I'm trying to remember.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the sets that I talked about earlier.
Maybe
the Universal Horror Collections.
Maybe. I don't know. Why am I trying to think of? I couldn't even think of that one movie earlier, and I'm making it worse.
You know what's? Yeah. You're gonna be hunting that.
Yeah. I'll figure that out later. But yeah. So yeah, the Arrow slate, a lot of good stuff here. I'm definitely going to continue to get the Argento stuff because we're getting the Prime Argento and in its best quality, and then we can move on. Well, there's still some, I think some that are still out there that like you said, Inferno, but yes. I don't even know has had a proper Blu-ray yet or not.
I believe it has. Inferno. Of course, when I look up Inferno, I get the Ron Howard film and not the one I'm looking for. Yeah, the one from actually, there's a Blu-ray of Inferno from Blue Underground.
Oh, okay.
From 2011.
Oh, that's a while back ago.
That is a while ago.
So they might be redoing that maybe, or if they lost the rights, maybe not. But
they could do it, but obviously, if Arrow has the
UK rights.
Arrow may. Yeah, I think Arrow put out. Yeah, Arrow has the rights to it in the UK. They put out a Blu-ray release of it in 2013.
All right, it needs an upgrade. Yep.
And they had an even older one that came out in 2010 when they were doing those white covers.
Yeah.
Those white like slip box covers. So who knows?
It's
I
coming.
mean, in 1980, they could do it for 2025. Make it a however many years that is.
Oh, come on. Yeah, we don't need it. We don't need a
45 year anniversary.
we don't need an anniversary
edition.
It'll be out probably by the end of this year. But
It could be that it could very well be the next one on the slate.
it could be.
For all we know.
Could be. But that is it for our show this week. Scott, thank you for joining us again, man.
Thank you. Happy to do it.
Yeah, and as usual, we'll have you back again. Maybe we can have a whole. I got to come up with. We're always coming up with new ideas for like themes for like because sometimes we'll have second halves. Maybe we could do a Scott Saslow spotlight of some. Oh yeah, we're gonna spotlight you, man. We're gonna go crazy on you. But
if you do that, at least promise me you'll do it with other designers too.
Oh, of course I will. Yeah. Well, Sister Hyde will have to come back, so we'll probably do her.
Yeah.
And the more you talk about Tony Stella, we need to get him on. So yeah, I mean it's just so many artists. I just like to spread you guys out, yeah. But we got so many artists to we gotta look into. So.
And Matt Needle, who does a lot of the BFI covers, which I'd love to. All these other designers working for other labels. It's like, how do I get in on that?
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, Scott, where's the best place to find you at?
My website is scottsaslow.com. I'm on Instagram at Scott Saslow and Twitter at Saslow_Scott. And Instagram's mainly work. Twitter's just geekery in general, pretty much. And yeah, check out my website. If anyone wants to reach out, the form is on the website. And yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Andrew, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Capzilla06, as well as our YouTube channel, Chasing Labels.
And you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings. You can also find me on the other Chasing Labels pages, whether it be our Twitter, Instagram, or my Letterboxd at Chasing Labels. You can also find the audio for the podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, and other places. Thanks again for listening, and hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.